How to Take Down a Treasonous Congress. Waffles Mcgrawl. May 24, 2025. While some may want to roll over and accept the ongoing acts of reckless corruption current Republican members of Congress have been engaging in, we need to hold them accountable. This administration has already shown an ongoing lack of interest in protecting and serving the people of the United States of America. As a whistleblower, I witnessed as fraud took place through our federal agencies between 2020 and 2024. The recent behaviors of this Congress as well as DOJ appear to be attempts to conceal evidence of a crime. I argue that their conduct in passing such bills and invading our federal agencies are attempts to conceal evidence of a crime. I have said it before and I will say it again, these people are people and that only, they are persons, and they are no more and no less special than any of the rest of us. They need to be held accountable for the millions of dollars they stole from our federal agencies and used to line their own personal pockets. If we the people continue to whine about how helpless we are when this is a few men who are engaging in crimes we all know ought to be taken very seriously, we will be facing a serious threat to our well-being and safety as individuals and as a nation. While we are well aware of the fact that several branches of government have been corrupted in what appears to be a coup attempt by Russia, not all branches, divisions, and segments of government have been corrupted. We need to work on finding meaningful and effective solutions while we still can and not allow this effort to defraud the United States of America to advance. If we allow this to go on by looking the other way and refusing to fight back, we may lose these additional branches and segments of government that still work for the people, and if that happens the consequences will be much worse than what we are facing in present day and there will likely be a significant loss of life. We will, in that, lose our chances at ever having the ability to secure a future worth living in and will have been lost due to cowardice and a lack of will of the people to want more for themselves than the hellscape these people are trying to create of this once great nation. Americans would be wise to start standing together with one another in solidarity and work together to find solutions to the attacks that have been taking place against our nation and national security. We still have the ability to hold these individuals accountable through the civil courts. To do so would require mass-scale organized collective action. People would need to be working together to collect and share evidence and hold these individuals accountable. If Americans cannot get their shit together and work together, the United States will surely fall, and people who otherwise would be fine will be forced to die at the hands and misdeeds of these few very pitiful sorry excuses of men who are currently seated in the United States Congress. It is these Republican members of Congress who have been the major conductors of these harms which have been taking place as they are engaging in ethics violations, abuse of power, and are passing retaliatory legislation, as well as legislation that is made and meant to conceal the crimes they committed. All of these actions are illegal, and it will only be accepted if the American people choose to accept it. If the American people choose to accept this, then they are no better than the criminal monsters who have seized our Congress and are engaging in treason against our people. United we stand, divided we fall. Never forget that. The only chains you have are your own thoughts and fears. Through civil litigation we do have a fair chance at stopping these criminals dead in their tracks and therefore can prevent an ongoing barrage of attacks on our nation which will result in loss of life. There are mechanisms and legal avenues available for citizens to address such abuses of power. Holding government officials accountable for corruption and fraud is essential to preserving democracy and the rule of law, though it is a challenging process, especially when multiple layers of the system are compromised. Here's a breakdown of potential steps and actions that could be taken. Understanding the legal framework for accountability. Government officials, including members of Congress, are bound by laws such as the Anti-Deficiency Act prevents misuse of federal funds. The False Claims Act imposes liability on those defrauding government programs. Ethics in Government Act establishes standards of ethical conduct for federal employees. Criminal laws, e.g., wire fraud, embezzlement, bribery. If these officials are engaging in fraudulent activities, they can be held accountable through legal mechanisms. However, when corruption is widespread, the challenge lies in identifying and mobilizing the appropriate accountability tools. Potential legal and civil avenues. When traditional governmental oversight bodies are compromised, citizens may need to pursue alternative avenues to expose wrongdoing. Whistleblowers and whistleblower protections. Encourage whistleblowers within the Department of Labor or other agencies to come forward with evidence. Whistleblower protection laws, e.g., the Whistleblower Protection Act, exist to protect individuals who expose corruption or fraud. Freedom of Information Act, FOIA, requests. Citizens, journalists, or advocacy groups can file FOIA requests to access documents and records that may reveal evidence of fraud or misuse of taxpayer funds. Civil litigation. If citizens or groups are directly harmed by the fraudulent actions, they may have standing to file lawsuits. Lawsuits could target individuals, agencies, or Congress members for misuse of funds or violations of specific laws, e.g., racketeering under RICO laws. Public oversight mechanisms. Congressional committees and inspectors general, IGs, are tasked with monitoring and investigating fraud and abuse. If they are compromised, citizens can demand external reviews or investigations. External investigations and media involvement. When internal accountability mechanisms are failing, external pressure is crucial. Engage the media. Investigative journalism has historically played a vital role in exposing government corruption, e.g., Watergate. Leaking evidence of fraud to trusted journalists or media outlets can bring public attention to the issue. Non-governmental organizations, NGOs. Partner with watchdog groups like the Government Accountability Project, Common Cause, or Transparency International. These organizations specialize in exposing corruption and advocating for accountability. Independent investigations. Citizens can work with independent legal or forensic experts to document evidence of fraud and submit findings to courts or international anti-corruption bodies. Grassroots mobilization and advocacy. When legal and oversight mechanisms fail, citizens can unite to demand accountability. Petitions and public pressure. Create petitions demanding independent investigations or reforms. Large-scale public support can lead to action. Protests and advocacy campaigns. Peaceful protests and awareness campaigns can pressure corrupt officials to step down or initiate changes. Electoral accountability. Work to unseat corrupt officials in the next election cycle by supporting ethical candidates and voter education campaigns. International oversight and pressure. If domestic mechanisms fail entirely, international organizations can sometimes assist. United Nations anti-corruption bodies. While limited in jurisdiction, these bodies can help publicize systemic corruption. International Criminal Court, ICC. For extreme cases involving crimes against humanity or systemic abuse, the ICC may intervene. Challenges and realities. Corruption at this level presents significant obstacles. Risk to whistleblowers. Those who expose wrongdoing may face retaliation. Entrenched power structures. Corrupt officials often work together to shield one another. Public apathy or fear. Citizens may feel powerless or fear reprisal. Despite these challenges, history has shown that determined citizens and advocates can bring about change, even in the face of systemic corruption. Recommended next steps. Document evidence. Collect as much evidence as possible to support claims. Build alliances. Partner with journalists, advocacy groups, and legal experts. Publicize the issue. Use media and social platforms to inform the public. Demand accountability. Pressure Congress, the courts, and oversight bodies to act. Corruption threatens the very fabric of democracy, but citizens have the power to demand accountability. While the process may be slow and fraught with obstacles, persistence, transparency, and public pressure are critical tools in the fight against systemic abuse of power. If you or your community are directly impacted, consider consulting with legal experts or organizations specializing in government accountability for personalized guidance. Several legal and constitutional provisions that would likely apply if members of Congress attempted to pass legislation specifically to conceal evidence of a crime they committed. While there may not be a single statute that explicitly says members of Congress cannot pass laws to cover up their own crimes, doing so would violate multiple existing laws and principles. Here's how it breaks down. 1. Obstruction of justice, 18 U.S. Code Section 1505, Section 1512. Passing a law with the intent to destroy, alter, or hide evidence or influence investigations or proceedings could be prosecuted as obstruction of justice. 18 U.S.C. Section 1512, c. prohibits corruptly altering, destroying, or concealing records or other objects with the intent to impair their availability for use in an official proceeding. 18 U.S.C. Section 1505 covers obstruction of proceedings before departments, agencies, and congressional inquiries. 2. Abuse of power, misuse of office. Using public office for personal gain or protection from accountability, especially through legislative action, may constitute misconduct in office, under state laws. Violation of the public trust, impeachable offense. Potential violation of ethics rules and House or Senate codes of official conduct. 3. Fraud against the United States, 18 U.S. Code Section 371. If lawmakers conspire to defraud the U.S. government, including by passing laws to obstruct justice, mislead investigators, or conceal illegal actions, they could be charged under this statute. 4. Violation of oaths of office. Members of Congress swear an oath to uphold the Constitution. Deliberately crafting legislation to undermine constitutional governance, evade justice, or facilitate crime violates that oath, a basis for censure, expulsion, impeachment, for executive officials. Congressional ethics and accountability. The House and Senate ethics committees can investigate and recommend discipline, up to expulsion, for any member who abuses their legislative powers. These actions don't require a criminal conviction. Constitutional checks. Even if corrupt legislation were passed, courts can strike it down as unconstitutional. Separation of powers doctrine prevents Congress from interfering with active judicial proceedings or investigations. The Supreme Court or lower courts can nullify such laws under Article 3 powers. Real-world precedent and hypotheticals. Watergate. Congress resisted Nixon's efforts to withhold tapes. The Supreme Court ordered the release in U.S. v. Nixon, 1974. Trump-era subpoenas. Efforts to block congressional or judicial subpoenas were met with legal challenges and mixed court rulings, reinforcing that no one is above the law. Here's a forward-thinking and encouraging approach to addressing the issue of members of Congress potentially passing legislation to conceal evidence of their own crimes. Legal framework against self-serving legislation by members of Congress. 1. Obstruction of justice, 18 U.S.C. Section 1505. If members of Congress enact laws with the intent to obstruct investigations or proceedings, they could be prosecuted under this statute. This law penalizes anyone who corruptly influences, obstructs, or impedes proceedings before federal departments or agencies. 2. Conspiracy to defraud the United States, 18 U.S.C. Section 371. Collaborative efforts by legislators to pass laws that conceal evidence of crimes may constitute a conspiracy to defraud the United States. This statute criminalizes agreements to obstruct lawful government functions through deceitful means. 3. Abuse of power and breach of oath. Members of Congress take an oath to uphold the Constitution. Passing legislation to shield themselves from accountability violates this oath and can be grounds for censure, expulsion, or impeachment. Constitutional safeguards and oversight mechanisms. 1. Judicial review. The judiciary has the authority to strike down laws that are unconstitutional or enacted with corrupt intent. This serves as a check against legislative overreach. 2. Congressional ethics committees. Both the House and Senate have ethics committees empowered to investigate misconduct by members, including the misuse of legislative power for personal gain. 3. Inspector General investigations. Inspectors General within federal agencies can investigate and report on misconduct, providing an additional layer of oversight. Proposed legislative measures for enhanced accountability. To further fortify the integrity of legislative processes, the following measures could be considered. 1. Legislative Transparency Act. Purpose: mandate comprehensive disclosure of the intent and potential impacts of proposed legislation. Provisions: require a detailed statement of purpose for each bill. Implement a review process to assess potential conflicts of interest. 2. Independent Oversight Commission. Purpose: establish a nonpartisan body to evaluate legislation for potential abuses of power. Provisions: empower the Commission to review and provide advisory opinions on proposed laws. Allow the Commission to refer matters to appropriate authorities if misconduct is suspected. 3. Whistleblower Protection Enhancement. Purpose: strengthen protections for individuals reporting legislative misconduct. Provisions: extend protections to congressional staff and other insiders. Ensure anonymity and safeguard against retaliation. While challenges exist, the resilience of democratic institutions lies in the active engagement of its citizens. By advocating for transparency, accountability, and robust oversight, we can work collectively to uphold the principles of justice and integrity in governance. In these critical times, your support is more important than ever. Every share, new subscriber, and contribution amplifies our collective voice. If you haven't already, consider becoming a paid subscriber. Your support enables us to continue exposing corruption and hold those responsible accountable. Please help us continue to be able to do this work and contribute if you can. Cash App, $Waffles Mcgrawl. Venmo, @Waffles_Mcgrawl. Together, we can make a difference. If you haven't already, don't forget to smash that like button, share this content and subscribe to this channel.